Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck and I get to follow the storyline of the people who live here in the state of Jefferson. This time we're going to talk red, white, and blue. And if you count with me, there's 48 stars. Because we're dialing time back, way back, World War II. And what did it mean to us here in our hometowns? I've got a guest today that I'd like to welcome back. Bob, thank you for sharing your stories, but we've never heard about World War II, and you...
Well, thank you, Bernie, for asking me back.
Where
I thought I screwed up the last time I was here.
I loved your, what did you call them, boy stories?
Yeah.
Boyhood stories?
Boyhood stories, yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
Williams. I was born at Williams, Oregon, and I've been too poor to leave.
Too poor to leave.
I tell everybody that I started out with nothing and I got most of it.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Lucky you. You have a story about World War II that just fascinates me.
Which one was that?
Well, you were just a kid, right? High school student when...
Oh, yes. I was drafted right out of high school. I got my draft notice when I turned 18. And they didn't take me into the service until, that was 1942. They didn't take me into the service until 1943, January of 43.
Well, now lots of things were happening out at Williams during that time. There was real support for the war effort.
Yes. I was going through a bunch of old pictures and things, and I found some cards of my mom's. And she was a air raid warden. For air raid watch. They had air raid watches back there after World War II.
Oh, I wish you'd bring one and show that to us.
I never thought about bringing that. It's well, and her old driver's license is in there, and her old fishing license is in there, and a couple of insurance tabs. It's in a little tiny packet.
What do you suppose the fishing license cost back then?
Well, I don't know. All I know is that I've been around long enough to have an old-timer's fishing license.
And what's an old-timer's?
Well, when you've lived in the state of Oregon for 50 years, you send in and you can get a fishing license. And it's free. You don't have to pay for it. And you can hunt. Get this now. I'm coming with one. You can hunt or fish anywhere you want to in the state of Oregon, unless you catch or kill something. If you catch something, you've got to have a tag. If you kill something, you've got to have a permit. And you have to pay for those, see? So I can hunt or fish for free, but if I'm going to take anything home, I'm going to have to pay for it. Just like going to the grocery store.
Okay. Well, do you suppose that it cost 50 cents or something back then?
Well, oh yeah, the fishing license. Well, I didn't have to have a fishing license, I think, till I was 14. And of course, I don't think I bothered with getting a fishing license for a number of years.
I think that a lot of people did that kind of thing. Well, now, was fishing an important part of mealtime?
Well, yes. In the spring, when the steelhead was coming up Williams Creek, we usually stocked up, and Dad had a smokehouse, and the ones we didn't eat that day, we'd smoke. Because
provisions, as you said, things were a little tight out in Williams.
Well, not for us. We always had meat. Mom was a good shot. We had venison, and
you got then, of course, that, folks. Mom was a good shot. I like that. Women who hunt.
She could kill a deer, skin it, fillet it out, and.
What's Mom's name?
Cora Bell Loveless. She had a twin sister, Dora Dell. It was Cora Bell Cooper and Dora Dell Cooper, and there was 12 children in her family.
Out at Williams?
No. The 12. They were from Missouri, Hannibal, Missouri.
Show me, hey?
Show me.
Well, now,
Anyway, there was 4 sets of twins
I can't believe it.
in the 12 children.
So that would be,
I've got all their names in the family Bible, but I can't think of all of them now.
Corabelle and
Corabelle and Dora Dell.
oh, Mom would be stuttering all her time without, if they're double named like that, which Southern children are. Well, now, what brought her to Oregon?
I don't really know. She always said that she picked strawberries to get enough money to get a train ticket to Oregon. But I think actually she was working, when my dad met her, she was working for a doctor up at Labam, Washington. And I think that she came out as a domestic to work in a home. And she was working for this doctor and taking care of his wife and children.
So maybe the moonlighting, picking berries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, she was a good little woman who set out in Williams, or Dad bought the place, or what?
Okay, there's a story in itself.
I bet there is, folks.
My grandfather and grandmother, they're buried out at Williams. They came to Williams in 1886. Dad said he was 7 years old. He was born in 1878, and he said he was 7 years old, so that'd make him 1885 or 1886 when they came to Williams and traded for a property for 80 acres.
What did he trade?
They had a horse and wagon, and the old boy that was there said he was, in those days, you know, you got a land, but you had to clear it. And he told, Dad says he remembers him saying, I'm just tired of grubbing stumps and I want to go someplace that I don't have to grub stumps. So they traded the horse and wagon to him for the 80 acres and 2 cabins and a barn.
Well, then what did Dad do for a horse?
Pardon?
What did your dad do for a horse?
Uncle Ira had come to, was married to Aunt Etta, and he had lived on Panther Gulch.
Panther Gulch?
Panther Gulch is off East Fork of Williams.
Okay.
He lived there. He had a donation land claim, 160 acres.
Oh my.
On Panther Gulch, and then he, I don't know how they got together, but he married Aunt Etta, and which was Dad's sister, or my grandfather's sister. And so he had horses and all, so I guess he loaned them, or the folks got a horse from him. You get a horse for $5, so
Oh, really?
It wasn't a big deal.
Because horses were kind of plentiful.
Oh yeah, but you didn't want to steal one.
Or
They'd hang you. Yeah.
What if they did that to people that steal cars and other things nowadays? I bet there'd be a lot less.
I know. Well.
Now, we started this to asking about your mom and why it was that she had this certificate in her wallet or her little purse.
Well, that was right after the war. They had air raid watches.
I bet it was during the war.
During the war, yeah, right after the war started. They had air raid watchers, and they would every night they would they rotated. The neighbors all rotated. This was air raid wardens, they called them.
Do you know where she sat watch or stood watch?
Yeah, down at the old Grange Hall.
Now, is that the same Grange Hall where they made mattresses during the Depression?
Yes.
Why did they have so much going on down at the Grange Hall?
Well, you got to keep those country folks busy, you know.
Well, it was a matter, I mean, it was your meeting place.
Grange Hall, meeting place, dances. We always had the dance and the fights. After the dance, they always had the fights. Somebody was dancing too close to somebody's wife, and
we're talking local history, folks. Then one day you got a draft notice. Is that right? 1942. You're still a student.
Yeah.
How'd you get to school from
Rode the bus.
How long? What time did you have to get on the bus?
Oh, we had to get up about, let's see, we'd get into school about 9, I think. School started at 9, so we'd have to get up there to meet the bus at about 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
But you had to get up and do some chores and one thing and another before you could go to the bus.
And you didn't live right at the bus stop
No,
either.
we were a mile. We were a mile off of East Fork of Williams.
And you want to tell me that Mom drove you down?
No.
No. How did you get there?
Walked.
Even when there was
Walked a mile.
snow?
Oh yeah, it didn't matter.
That's the
Of
way.
course, I skipped school a lot too. I've got to admit that. I had a lot of other things to do, like going fishing and hunting squirrels and.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
Now, then came the news. Do you remember hearing that war broke out? Where were you?
I was up on the hill someplace, and I didn't know anything about it till I got back to the house that night.
Maybe you'd been up hunting or
No, I was just
hiking or
hiking or something.
being a kid.
Yeah.
And when you got home, Mom said,
She was all worried because the war had started and her little boy might have to go to war.
"Boy, is that a familiar, ever a familiar line for mothers throughout history?" I remember my mother was so concerned that Henry'd have to go to war, and he did.
Yeah.
And like your mom, her prayers were answered and he came home.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it was a blessing for her, and it was a blessing for me too. I was glad to get home.
Well, now,
And I came home with all my hands and feet. I was lucky.
well, we got you through high school. Then what happened next? They didn't want you in the Army right away?
No, well, they deferred me to finish high school.
Okay.
See, I was still in high school, but then they didn't call me in till I worked that summer. I was in high school, and this was, I think it was probably the early part of 42 when they called me in and or drafted me, and then they didn't call me for service until January of 43. So I worked at the State Forest Patrol during the summer.
What did the State Forest Patrol workers do?
We fought fires and built trails and ate a lot of good food.
Well, I'll tell you.
My dad was a cook there at the State Forest Patrol. So
Where was that?
up on 12th Street. The building's still there.
Now, this was really important. Did that
For
have a
15
war?
minutes there.
Did they have a war effort also, where the Forest Service was?
Oh yes, they were on alert. By that time, all of the lookouts were fire watch.
And not just for forest fires, but they were watching for incendiary bombs coming from Japan. They were watching for airplanes.
Planes, well.
And
But we were expecting planes to come over and bomb us, you know.
now, do you know firsthand knowledge about incendiaries that came?
No, only what I read where the one incendiary blew up over in eastern Oregon and killed those 5 children.
Yeah, well, I know that Deb Potts told me and showed me on this TV show the incendiary that they got off of
The mountain down.
right here in just north of Grants Pass on, forgot the name of that mountain, but it's on
Elk Mountain or something?
right next to I-5 before you get to Sexton,
Elk Mountain, I think.
on the right side.
Uh-huh.
They had a bad forest fire there another time, but I'll tell you, that incendiary landed in that tree during a rainy season. I guess Japanese didn't know that the fire would go out.
Well, They say, well, their weatherman was not on it. You know, the weatherman's the only guy that can be wrong 2/3 of the time and still keep his job.
I think some baseball batters do about that well. If they bat 300 something, everybody's raving. You know, I want to move you up just slowly about where did you register for the draft? Where did you go once you were
I had to go to the courthouse to register for the draft. And then I got a draft notice in the mail, I think. And then I went to the courthouse, and I think I had to go to the county judge's office at the time and register.
Were you trembling, or?
No, I was sort of looking forward to it, you know. A good chance to get away from home.
And where was that?
Tired of milking cows.
Was that uniform an attractive change of clothes from?
In a way, it was.
Were you used to bib overalls and?
Yeah. And well, in the summertime, all I had on was cut-off shorts, you know.
And the reason they were cut off was probably the knees had gone?
The knees was wore out, so I cut them off.
Well, you know, there's so much about that time frame in rural America, whether it's Oregon or California or where it is, that it fascinates me. And there's not a lot of people that can give me firsthand stories about what it was like to be a kid in the 30s?
Yeah, 30s. I was born in 23, so that makes me 83 years old now.
And well preserved, if I say so.
Well, no, I won't say I'm pickled, but I do drink a little bit of wine now and then.
Well, that's, you got me. You got me. I'm interested in how the school and how the guys in your school related to these draft notices.
Well, some of them were very. I don't think we had any really conscientious objectors in our local school here. They weren't real happy with leaving and going, but I don't remember any of them complaining.
The flag was waving high.
That's right. Oh well.
Old glory.
If the Japanese hadn't bombed Pearl Harbor, we probably wouldn't have been so gung-ho about going. And but no, I had four friends that went into the service all at the same time as I did, with the same year. Jerry Sparland, Jim Vinsel, and Jack Schuler, and myself, the four of us. And we were all fortunate. We all came back.
All Williams kids?
All Williams kids.
Hugo, or
yeah, we were all four from Williams, or all four of us was from Williams.
You know, that must have left a real hole in the community.
Yeah, of course they was. I don't know, Howard Kincaid and Bob Britson, and I can't think of. I think there was about 15 or 20 guys from Williams
who went into the military.
Jim and Philip Wilson, they had already enlisted, and they were both. They were sunk out in the sea. They were both on the same ship.
Oh my!
That's when they made the ruling that they couldn't put more than one member of a family on a ship.
Now Williams is on a circle. I call it a destination town.
Mm-hmm.
The road only goes to Williams and back out, unless you want to go over that mountain.
Over the Grayback Mountain.
And you've done that?
Yep.
On foot?
7,043 feet.
And now there's a road that you can go and...
Practically. You can go up to Cold Springs, which is about, probably 1,000 foot below the summit. There's no reason to go any further with the road because there's no timber up there, but they built the road up there to log off the timber.
And during that terrible fire that we had in over California, Northern California, and Southern Oregon,
Yeah.
they detoured traffic up over into Williams on the crookedest highway. But it really was passable
Yeah.
as an escape route.
Yeah.
Williams is unique in many ways, but it was where people got a land grant or a
Yeah, there was,
homestead?
Yeah, there was a number of land grants out there. Uncle Ira had a land grant, 160 acres, and Hiram Sparlin had, I think he had 320 acres because you could get 160 for you and your wife, and that's where the Sparlin Cemetery is. That's where all my relatives are buried there.
And did you know the Friels?
Oh yes,
Grandma and Grandpa Friels, and then there was the Dailies, who were
Yeah.
their family. That's what I knew. And then next door to them was the Kincaid Carpenter family.
Carpenters, yeah.
You know the stories about them.
Oh yeah, yeah. Incidentally, we used to put together local names, and we used to say, Peckham Rice Daily. There was Rices, Dailies, and Peckhams, and
So you put them all together?
yeah, but we had 3 or 4 names that we strung together.
Well,
Something to do in school, you know.
Well, it was my privilege to go to one of the little houses that they had lived in. They were tiny, and they held a church service in there on Saturdays for the community
Yeah.
before they built the little church.
Well, at one time there was about 5 or 6 churches out at Williams, and that my dad was chairman of the school board at number 12, not precinct, but anyway.
District 12.
District 12, and they consolidated District 12, 14, and 16, 10, 12, or 12, 14, and 13 into District 16.
Okay, now this is all off of Williams Highway, which only.
Yeah, that's the Williams School is still there.
Well, there
District
is
16.
so much that the school is very much like it was, isn't it? And my husband went out and taught computer there as an after-school thing. Fascinating people, and the school almost shouts history. It was a delight.
Yeah. Well, when I started the school there, I went all 8th grades in the school, and it was just one big room, but they had a sliding door in the middle. So the 1st through 4th grade was in this side, and the 4th or the 5th through the 8th grade was in the other side.
And when they'd open the doors, what was that
Well,
for?
that's when they had school board meetings, or we had a school play, or something like that.
Or the dances? No, they were down at the Grange
No,
Hall.
they didn't dance in the school. I think that was prohibited at that time.
Okay. Now, there's so much about Williams, but it's the people about Williams, and you in particular and your family. Could you tell me about Williamsburg?
Well, that was long gone by the time I was grown up.
Did you ever go?
Well, yes, I know where Williamsburg was. It was down there just on the, right up across the road from the Laughlin Ranch.
And if you threw a stone from Williams across the creek?
No. Williams was about 4 miles up the creek from Williamsburg. And Williamsburg was a mining town, and they did a lot of mining up there. And after the miners left, then the Chinese moved in, and they probably took more gold out than the
They worked
miners.
it judiciously, didn't they?
They did, yes. And I remember Jerry Sparlin and I going up there, and there was a lot of these here Chinese wine bottles like that. I wish I'd have kept those, because now they're valuable. But we set them up and shot them with a .22, you know. They were made out of clay. They were pottery.
Oh.
There was dozens of them up in there.
I'll bet. Well, Williamsburg, I was so fortunate. Peggy Peckham Carpenter took me up there and showed me where her mother had lived and written an ode to Williamsburg. That poem, she remembers a part of it, but oh, how we wish we had those treasures.
Yeah.
You have so many stories, and one I'm anxious to find out is why the red, white, and blue is so important to you. But I'm going to have to invite you back for another show, because there you are in your red, white, and blue, and we can just wave the banner high, 48 stars. And I understand Williams was a little slow to really welcome the military in the olden days. They figured they were their own law unto themselves.
That's right. Well, we didn't even like the sheriff out there.
Not that you were evil or running stills or anything.
He might want to get after us for shooting a deer now and then.
And sometimes the deer, as they say, blew the antlers right off.
Yeah. Our ranch had about 20 head of deer on it, so we never lacked venison. And we opened the season when we was getting low on venison.
You heard it here. Same like the antlers, right?
Yeah.
Because there were so many deer.
Oh, yeah.
Such an incredible. Well, you know, as I said, I've got to ask you back to tell us a little bit about local history during post-war era, because this is all about the way it was before.
Yeah.
When things were a little simpler and our world was a lot smaller.
That's for sure. And I remember when they first got they first put gravel on the old road. I mean,
that must have
tarmac. They put
big improvement.
Big
This is
improvement.
Bernie Martin Beck saying thanks, and you're coming back to tell us more. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Okay, I'll be happy to come back.